Hooked tonight, we drift back, far back, to a world made of stone, sunlight and silence. The year is uncertain. The empire stretches wide, from the misty islands of Britain to the sands of Egypt. But we are not in the palaces of emperors, no. We are walking through the dusty streets of Rome when the morning sun touches the marble statues and the smell of bread, baked in clay ovens, fills the alleys. The cobblestones are still cool from the night rain. A cart rolls slowly past, wooden wheels creaking, a donkey's hooves striking stone rhythmically, endlessly. Somewhere, a fountain gurgles. The water catches the early light, gold and clear. A baker yawns and opens his stall. A woman sweeps the dust outside her home. A boy chases a dog down an empty street. The city is waking up, but time moves differently here. The rhythm of life in Rome is slow and patient and utterly ordinary. Tonight, we won't see wars or emperors or heroes. Tonight, we will only walk through the quiet streets, past the humble baths, the bread stalls, and the fading murals. We will listen to the sound of sandals in the dust. And as we walk through the forgotten corners of ancient Rome, we will fall asleep to its quiet, endless hum. Chapter 1. The dawn over the 7 hills. The night in Rome fades, not with haste but with a patient sigh. The stars, pale and worn, retreat behind a veil of early light. From the east, over the gentle curve of the Aventine Hill, a faint line of gold begins to bloom, soft, diluted, like sunlight filtering through dust. The city do not wake all at once. It stirs slowly, as though even time itself moves carefully here, afraid to break the fragile stillness that still holds between shadow and dawn. On the Palatine, a faint breeze stirs the dry leaves that gathered overnight. The olive trees whisper, the marble columns gleam faintly. A thin mist curls around their bases like memory. The stones are cool to the touch, still holding the chill of the night. Somewhere below, a rooster calls, distant, lazy, uncertain, another answer from across the Tiber. Between them, silence stretches like a soft fabric, torn only by the creak of wooden shutters as a servant opens them, letting in the first pale breath of morning. In the distance, the 7 hills, Aventine, Palatine, Capitoline, Quirinal, Viminal, Esquiline, and Caelian, glow faintly, their outlines painted in ash and rose. The sun has not yet risen, but its promise is already there, like a whisper in the air. The first sounds of the city are not loud. They are gentle, almost apologetic. The faint roll of a cart's wooden wheel, the distant bark of a dog, the flutter of a pigeon landing on a cracked rooftop, the quiet rattle of a broom sweeping dust from a doorstep. One can almost hear the breath of the city, slow, steady, ancient. Rome breathes like an old lion, tired but proud. A woman in a plain tunic steps outside her small home near the Esquiline Hill. She pauses to tighten her shawl, squinting at the sky, the color of old parchment. She carries a clay jar, chipped at the rim, and walks slowly toward the fountain at the corner. Her sandals scrape softly against the uneven stones. Water still trickles from the bronze spout, a thin, steady stream that catches the first light. The fountain's basin is ringed with moss and faint carvings of dolphins. The woman kneels, fills her jar, and watches the ripples fade. For a moment she does not move. She just listens to the dripping, the distant cartwheels, and the echo of something timeless. Above her, a few windows open. A baker yawns, wipes his hands on his apron, and checks the small clay oven by the wall. He has been awake for hours already, tending to the dough left overnight. The smell of yeast and smoke begins to drift through the narrow street, curling through doorways and arches. The baker's boy sits nearby, half asleep, poking at the ashes with a stick. The fire hums faintly, its color soft and golden. When the bread begins to bake, a calm warmth fills the small shop, the kind of warmth that clings to you, even in silence. Across the way, the first light reaches a crumbling fresco, faint red and ochre figures, painted long ago, still dancing faintly on plaster. Their outlines are fading, but their presence lingers, like ghosts who never left. A group of pigeons takes flight, scattering dust into the golden air. From the forum, a faint sound, the clang of a gate, the shuffle of a guard changing watch. The sky brightens a little more. Rome's colors awaken slowly. The terracotta roofs, the pale limestone, the bronze of door hinges, and the green, grey of olive branches. Every shade feels washed in quiet light, every surface breathing in a sleepy rhythm. The Tiber glimmers in the distance, soft and slow-moving. Its surface carries fragments of morning, a floating leaf, the reflection of clouds, and the faint sparkle of the rising sun. A fisherman stands on its bank, silent and still. He throws his line into the water, then waits. He has done this every morning of his life, and the river knows him. The ripples expand slowly outward, joining with others, forming a web of motion so delicate it almost seems motionless. A bell rings, a dull, bronze sound, rolling gently through the morning air. It echoes across the city, through narrow alleys and open courtyards, bouncing softly between the hills. People begin to appear now, not many, just a few silhouettes moving like thoughts through the awakening streets. A boy leading a mule. A woman carrying baskets of figs. A man is lighting a torch near the bathhouse doorway, though the day is already brightening. The smell of smoke and bread mingles with the faint sweetness of crushed herbs. The city's thousand small fragrances begin to rise. Olive oil, dust, stone water, wine, and the dry perfume of the morning wind. A gentle hum builds, not of noise, but a life. The sound of sandals brushing against stone, of quiet voices greeting each other, of tools clinking faintly as they are set down, picked up and set down again. In a small courtyard, an old man waters a fig tree. He moves slowly, his clay pot heavy with water, his hand steady. He hums a tune no one remembers the words to. Around him, the light pools on the ground like honey. The shadows grow shorter, sharper, and more confident. The rooftops gleam. And yet, even in this growing brightness, the feeling remains that Rome is still half asleep, that it exists somewhere between dream and waking, that even the air remembers its ancient rhythm, steady, circular, endless. Somewhere, a blackbird lands on a marble bust, perched in a garden corner. The statue's eyes are blank, its expression calm, and its stone shoulders covered with fine dust. The bird tilts its head, sings once, then flies away. The light climbs higher, spilling across rooftops, windows, and alleys. The mist lifts. The golden breath of morning spreads over the 7 hills. Each hill carries its own silence, a different kind of quiet, shaped by what once stood there. The Palatine, proud and still, remembers the emperors. The Aventine, shaded by trees, remembers the monks and quiet gardens. The Capitoline, crowned with statues, remembers prayers and victories. The Esquiline, dotted with small homes, remembers laughter and children's voices. The hills hold the memory of everything, glory and grief, marble and dust, a city forever waking and never fully awake. The breeze carries the scent of bread again, stronger now, mingled with the faint metallic tang of the Tiber. Rome breathes, slowly, patiently. The city does not hurry. It has seen too many mornings to rush through another. The sun now touches every corner, from the steps of the temples to the uneven stones of forgotten alleys. The light moves across old walls like a soft hand tracing ancient names. A day begins, not with noise, but with weightless continuity. The same motions repeated, the same sounds heard, the same dust rising, falling, and rising again. This is Rome at dawn, timeless, tired, and eternal. A city breathing in sunlight, exiling memory. Somewhere deep within its endless quiet, the heartbeat of an empire still lingers. Slow, measured, unchanging. The morning settles fully now. The voices grow softer, the air heavier with warmth. The fountain's water continues to fall drop by drop into the still pool. The day has begun, and yet for Rome, the dawn never truly ends, it stays. A golden hush, stretching endlessly, beneath the 7 hills, waiting, breathing, dreaming. And you, standing here in the middle of it, can almost feel the dust of centuries settle quietly around you, like sleep, like peace. Chapter 2. The Baker's Alley. The light of dawn deepens, spilling slowly into the narrow alleys of Rome. The day grows warmer, but not yet noisy. The air feels heavy with the scent of dust, olive wood smoke, and something sweeter, something soft and familiar, the smell of bread beginning to rise. The Baker's Alley lies between 2 small hills, hidden like a quiet thought. Its stones are worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. A trickle of water runs down the side, catching the morning light, forming tiny reflections that dance like fireflies on the walls. It is still early. The sun is gentle, filtered through thin clouds, brushing softly across shutters and door frames. The world feels half awake, as if the city has opened only one eye. At the far end of the alley, smoke curls upward from a clay chimney. The baker's fire has been burning since before the light appeared. Inside the small shop, the air is thick with heat. A soft, embracing warmth that clings to the skin like a blanket. The baker moves slowly, rhythmically, pressing his hands into dough. His palms glisten faintly with flour, his fingers folding, turning, pressing again. The dough sighs under his touch, a soft sound like breathing. He lifts it, folds it, and sets it aside. Then he begins again. Each motion is the same as it was yesterday, and the day before, and the day before that. The rhythm of bread is the rhythm of life here, steady, unhurried, patient. Behind him the oven hums, a great, round-bellied clay creature, its mouth glowing faintly orange. The heat breathes from it in gentle waves. The wood inside pops and shifts, its smell rich and comforting, a perfume of home and hunger and memory. The baker's boy, still drowsy from lack of sleep, sits on a stool near the doorway. He blinks slowly, yawns, and watches the flames flicker through the oven's small opening. The fire is alive, whispering, crackling softly as if telling old stories. The boy listens without meaning to. He imagines the sound as words, the murmuring language of wood turning into light. The baker says nothing. He has no need to speak. His world is small, complete. His table, his flour, his hands, his fire. A faint dust of flour hangs in the air like mist. Each grain catches the sunlight that slips through a crack in the roof, spinning slowly before disappearing. Outside, footsteps begin to echo faintly in the alley. An old woman with a wicker basket stops by the door, peeking inside. She smells the air, nods, and waits. The smell of warm bread is a kind of promise, one that the whole alley seems to understand. The baker glances at her, wipes his hands, and gestures for her to wait. The woman smiles, as if she's been part of this ritual for years. She leans against the wall, her shawl pulled close, watching the smoke curl upward. Another person joins, a young man carrying clay jars, then a small child holding a copper coin. They wait in quiet, patient stillness. No one hurries, no one speaks loudly. The alley is filled only with soft, sleepy sounds, the occasional clatter of a pot, the quiet cough of the baker's boy, and the faint rush of air when the oven door opens and closes. Each sound folds into the next, forming a slow rhythm, like the city's own heartbeat. Inside, the loaves begin to brown. The crusts turn golden, cracking softly as they rise. The smell deepens, rich, toasty, sweet. It drifts through the alley, over the heads of those waiting, curling around corners, seeping into open windows. A cat appears, padding silently between legs, tail high, nose twitching. It pauses by the doorway, blinks, and settles down to wait too, eyes half closed, dreaming of crumbs. The baker opens the oven door. A wave of heat rolls out, soft, glowing alive. The loaves are ready. He removes them carefully, one by one, setting them on the wooden shelf. The sound they make, that faint crackle as the crust cools, is the sound of comfort itself. The waiting customers smile faintly. The woman reaches for her loaf, warm and fragrant, and holds it close as if it were a sleeping child. She doesn't speak, only nods in thanks. The baker nods back. He has done this 1,000 times. There is no need for words. The boy yawns again, stretching. The baker ruffles his hair gently, leaving a white handprint of flour. The boy laughs softly, a sound that feels like sunlight in the dusty air. The morning grows brighter. Outside, the alley glows in gold and brown. The walls seem warmer, the air thicker with scent. A breeze wanders through, lifting a few loose grains of flour from the floor, making them dance like tiny ghosts. The people come and go. The bread leaves the shelf. The smell lingers, refusing to fade. Farther down the alley, a small tavern opens its doors. 2 men sit on a bench, speaking softly about nothing in particular. Their words drift like smoke, mixing with the smell of bread and the low hum of the city. Somewhere above, a window creaks open. A woman shakes out a linen cloth, and sunlight catches it midair, white, glowing, and delicate. The cloth floats gently, then falls, folding itself in slow motion like a sigh. The alley remains the same, always the same. The same shadows, the same warmth, the same sound of dough being pressed and ovens breathing. Rome changes, but this quiet place of bread and smoke does not. The baker wipes his hands again, looks at the empty shelf, and begins to knead once more. The sound returns, soft, steady, eternal. His hands know the movement better than his mind does. Fold, press, turn, fold. Each motion blurs into the next. The world outside fades. The rhythm of bread becomes the rhythm of breath. The alley exhales warmth. The fire hums. The air glows faintly gold. Even the dust seems drowsy, drifting lazily in the slow sunlight. A moment passes, or perhaps 100 years. It is hard to tell. The scene feels carved into time, unchanging, suspended in the endless morning. The baker pauses for a moment, closes his eyes. He listens to the city breathing, to the crackle of wood, to the quiet, steady heartbeat of his own hands at work. The world feels still. Perfectly, impossibly still. Outside, the sound of sandals fades down the alley. The cat stretches, curls up, and sleeps. The baker's boy hums softly under his breath, barely a tune, just a rhythm. The oven sighs again softly. The light shifts on the wall. Rome continues, endlessly, peacefully. The smell of bread fills the world, and the morning, patient, golden, eternal, lingers on. And so the alley rests again, just as it always has, in warmth, in dust, in the gentle, sleepy breath of bread and time. Chapter 30. The baths of morning steam. The dawn has long passed, and the city of Rome now exhales in its slow, familiar rhythm. The baker's fires have burned down to quiet embers. The smell of bread lingers on the narrow wind, and now, from every corner of the waking streets, men with towels draped over their shoulders begin the slow, unhurried walk toward the baths. You follow them, not as a visitor, not as a stranger, but as a drifting thought, as if the air itself were carrying you. The sound of sandals against stone cobbles blends with the murmur of distant voices. Somewhere, a bucket tips and water runs down into a drain. The morning sun glows pale above the tiled roofs, filtered through the faint haze of cooking smoke. The baths, therma, are not just a place to wash. They are Rome's heartbeat, slow and steady, a world within walls, a rhythm of water, warmth, and silence. You arrive at the great arched entrance. The walls are of aged brick, colored by centuries of sun. The marble steps are worn smooth, as if thousands of quiet mornings have passed over them. Inside, the air changes, cooler, heavier, and scented faintly with oil, with steam, and with stone. At first you hear the whisper of dripping water, then the echo of footsteps, multiplied and softened by the high ceilings. The voices of men speaking low, like the sound of waves. It is not bustling, not loud, but alive. The baths are always alive, yet never hurried. You pass through the first chamber, the apoditerium, the changing room. Here, men unfasten their tunics, fold them carefully, and place them on carved shelves. Slaves move quietly, their bare feet soft on the mosaic floor. The mosaic beneath your gaze shows dolphins leaping among waves, their tails curved like the flow of dreams. One man laughs, but softly, not to break the calm, only to share a small warmth of life. Another stands still, his arms behind his back, eyes closed, as if already halfway between waking and sleep. Beyond the chamber lies the tepidarium, the warm room. You step through an archway into mist. The light here is golden and blurred, as if the sun itself were bathing. The air wraps around your skin, gentle and damp. Steam rises from marble basins and curls along the ceiling like drifting thoughts. Everywhere the quiet ritual continues. Men pour warm water over their shoulders from bronze ladles. Others recline against smooth benches, eyes half closed, saying nothing. The air hums faintly, a living stillness. You can hear drops falling into a shallow pool, one after another, like the ticking of an ancient clock. A man scrapes oil from his arms with a curved bronze strigil, the soft sound like the slow brushing of silk. Each motion feels ancient and unbroken, repeated across centuries in this same rhythm. Wash, rinse, breathe. Wash, rinse, breathe. The marble beneath your feet is faintly warm. It holds the memory of the sun from the day before, a soft heat that never fades. The columns are streaked with moisture, reflecting light in thin, trembling lines. The sound of the water, the low hum of voices, and the flicker of golden light begin to merge, not into noise but into texture. A pattern that repeats, a pattern that soothes. Through another arch, the caldarium, the hot room, breathes steam like a living creature. The heat rises and folds around you, heavy and hypnotic. The world here is blurred, almost unreal. Faces move through the mist like ancient frescoes, colors softened and shapes slow. At the center of the chamber, a pool glows faintly from beneath, the water shimmering in liquid light. It is too hot to rush. No one moves quickly here. A man steps down the marble stairs into the pool, one slow step at a time, his breath deep and patient. Another leans against the edge, eyes closed, arms resting along the stone rim. The steam thickens, and even sound feels slower. Words melt into the air. You feel yourself sinking, not into the water, but into the rhythm. Somewhere, water drips from the ceiling, hitting the pool's surface with a perfect, endless pattern. Plink, plink, plink. Time itself seems to match that sound, unhurried, circular. The Roman world was built on time, on schedules, on order, but here it is timeless. Inside these walls, there is no empire, no senate, and no noise of chariots or traders. Only the bath, the heat, the water, and the breath of men relaxing into silence. After the heat comes the cool. You pass slowly toward the frigidarium, the cold chamber. Here, the air is thin, clear, and still. The water in the pool is calm as glass. Its surface mirrors the ceiling, painted sky, drifting clouds, faint traces of old blue pigment. The first step into the water is always a shock. The body wakes, the mind clears. But today, it feels more like drifting through light. The chill fades quickly, leaving behind only a deep, inward quiet. You imagine centuries of bathers stepping here before you, each leaving behind a breath, a ripple, and a whisper. The water remembers. The marble remembers. The whole room hums faintly with the weight of forgotten mornings. A shaft of sunlight breaks through a small circular window above, striking the water and scattering reflections across the walls. Silver waves, trembling gently, they move like the ghost of the river Tiber itself, flowing without direction, without end. You stand there, barely breathing. The reflections climb your face, your hands, and your chest, until it feels as though you, too, are part of the water's memory. Farther down the hall, you hear the quiet murmur of the palæstra, the exercise court. Through a colonnade, men stretch, wrestle lightly, and move with the slow rhythm of practice. Their movements are precise but calm, no rush, no strain. Even exertion here is meditative and balanced. You notice how sunlight falls through the open roof, cutting through drifting steam. Dust motes and droplets float together in the air, tiny constellations suspended in amber light. A bronze statue of Apollo glows softly in the center, his gaze distant, his form smooth with age. Even the gods seem drowsy here, lulled by the stillness of steam and echo. Then comes oil, fragrant and golden, poured into small clay dishes. Men rub it along their arms, their chests, and their faces. The scent is faintly sweet, like almonds and herbs. A slave moves among them with quiet steps, offering towels, bowls, and fresh linen. Every gesture is practiced, calm and ancient. The bath is not about cleanliness, it is about slowness. It is about the sacred rhythm of tending the body like one tends a garden: water, oil, breath, warmth, and silence. And as you move back toward the entrance, past the rows of marble pillars and mosaics of sea creatures, you feel something soft behind your eyes. The onset of that drifting weight that comes before sleep. The sound of dripping water repeats, endless and circular, like a lullaby sung by stone. The steam still clings to your skin. The faint scent of oil lingers in the air. Outside, Rome continues. Carts creak, merchants call, the Tiber glints under the sun. But here, within the walls of the baths, time has paused. Every drop that falls, every echo that fades, and every breath that rises feels like part of one vast rhythm. A rhythm that Rome itself dreams through century after century. And as you walk through the last hall, where statues stand half, shadowed and quiet, you begin to feel lighter, slower. Your footsteps match the echoes, your breath matches the dripping water. You are not leaving the baths, you are dissolving into them. The marble glows faintly under the last shaft of light. The air hums low and steady. The sound of water repeats, over and over, like time itself folding in on its own reflection. Until the last sound you hear is the quiet exhale of the baths themselves, ancient, eternal, as if the whole of Rome were asleep beneath the steam. Chapter 4e, the market at midday. Where shadows lengthen between voices, the city has warmed beneath the sun. The morning haze that clung to the rooftops has thinned, rising into the pale Roman sky like a veil drawn back. You can still taste the baths on your skin. Faint salt, faint oil, and the lingering hum of warmth. Now, Rome breathes out into midday. The streets widen here, near the Forum, where the hum of voices collects like water in a basin. You drift along with them. Through narrow alleys, under slanted shadows, past doorways where cats sleep in light that flickers through the folds of laundry. The city is slow but alive, as though every sound were softened by the weight of heat. A cart passes, the wood creaking gently under its load of olives. The driver says nothing. The mule breathes heavily, its hooves dull against the dust. You turn the corner, and the market opens, vast, sunlit, trembling with motion and sound. It is not noise in the modern sense, but a pattern of murmurs, the dull tap of amphorae, the swish of linen, and the clink of coins dropped into small hands. You hear Latin words, short and rhythmic, the language of trade, softened by repetition, almost musical. A woman leans over a table of figs, testing each one with her thumb. The fruit yields slightly rich and purple. Beside her, a man arranges loaves of bread into neat pyramids, their crusts split with golden cracks. The smell of baked wheat and yeast drifts through the air, mixing with the faint tang of olives and fish brine. The sunlight hits everything unevenly, bright on bronze scales, dim where canvas awnings flutter overhead. The shadows stretch long across the stone, sharp-edged and cool beneath bare feet. Children run through them like small streaks of laughter. You pause at a stall where pottery gleams like quiet suns, cups, bowls, lamps. Their surfaces reflect the sky in muted terracotta light. The merchant's hands are steady and slow. Each gesture has been repeated so often that it seems part of the day's rhythm. He speaks softly to a customer, not persuasion, not urgency, just a tone like water running over stone. Trade in Rome is not hurried. It is an art of patience. Nearby, a man sharpens a small knife on a whetstone, the sound a whispering hiss. Another counts coins one by one, stacking them with care, listening to their soft metallic sighs. It is as if the market itself breathes in rhythm with its people. An inhale of voices, an exhale of silence. In the shade of an archway, a scribe sits with his wax tablet. He writes for those who cannot. A woman dictates a letter to her son in the army, her voice low and tender, carrying both pride and distance. The stylus scratches faintly. A pause, then another line. You can almost see the words drift off the wax, carried away into the hot air, to settle among the dust motes that shimmer above the marble ground. Everywhere, people move like threads weaving an invisible cloth. The butcher lifting a cut of meat with slow precision, the fishmonger laying crushed ice on scales that flash silver, the old man selling herbs wrapped in paper, his hands green from mint and thyme. The light begins to tilt. It is still noon, but the sun has shifted just enough that shadows grow longer, stretching like liquid down the walls. A boy pours water from a jug into a clay basin for a dog. The splash echoes faintly in the heat. Steam rises, curls, and then vanishes. Even the flies move lazily now, tracing slow circles through the air. You watch one settle briefly on a loaf of bread, then lift again, catching a glint of sunlight on its wings, a tiny spark, gone before the next breath. Somewhere, a crier calls out the day's news. His voice is distant, softened by the crowd. He speaks of trade ships, of senators, of some decree posted at the forum. No one hurries to listen. The news, like the heat, will still be there later. You walk deeper into the market center, where the stone columns cast striped shadows. Between them, colors bloom: the crimson of wine in open jugs, the pale blue of dyed cloth, and the gold of honey caught in glass jars. Light touches them gently, turning every object into a slow, glowing shape. An old woman sits behind a small stand of candles, each flame motionless, steady even in the faint breeze. The wax melts and runs in thin rivers, pooling in quiet folds at the base. She watches them without expression, as though she too is melting into the afternoon. A potter's wheel turns nearby, rhythmic and low. The clay rises beneath the man's hands, smooth and silent, water dripping from his fingers. The wheel hums, soft, circular, eternal. The market's true sound is not talk or trade. It is the hum of things becoming. You feel it in your chest, that same hum. Rome, beneath the noise, beneath the marble and the empire, hums softly like a creature asleep in the sun. Every gesture, every movement is old and slow. Even the wind that stirs the awnings moves as if tired from centuries of repetition. The air smells of olive oil and sunlight on stone. Somewhere, a cithara, a small stringed instrument, is being played by a musician in the shade. The notes float thin and distant, dissolving into the heat. They are not quite melody, not quite silence, something between, something eternal. A young couple passes, carrying a basket of bread and grapes. They walk close together, but say nothing. The folds of her white dress sway against the rhythm of their steps. The man glances at her, then at the sky, perhaps wondering if the day will stay as it is, still and endless. Time thickens in the heat. You feel it, a slow softening of everything. The marble pillars seem to shimmer at the edges, their shapes uncertain, as though the city itself were drowsy. The voices blend now low and steady, like waves over distant sand. The clatter of amphorae fades, replaced by the hum of air. Even the sun seems to sigh, its rays turning more amber than gold. You pass by the fountain in the market center, a circular pool where water trickles from a lion's mouth. The surface trembles, faint ripples spreading outward, breaking the reflection of clouds. Someone tosses a coin in, and for a moment the glint of metal catches the light, turning the water briefly to gold. Then the coin sinks, leaving behind only concentric rings, widening, softening, vanishing. You sit on the edge of the fountain's stone rim. The stone is warm beneath you. The sound of the water is soft, a steady, repeating rhythm that seems to erase thought. A pigeon lands nearby, dips its beak into the pool and drinks. Its feathers shimmer, grey-blue and violet, then settle again into stillness. Around you, the market continues, but slowly, as if caught in honeyed light. Voices rise and fall, footsteps echo faintly. A breeze moves through hanging cloth and makes the shadows ripple. It all becomes one great, continuous sound, not of activity, but of existence. The world itself is breathing. You tilt your head back and look toward the sky. Between the columns and rooftops, the noon sun blurs into a white haze. You can barely tell where the air ends and light begins. This is the Rome of afternoons, a city caught in a single, endless moment, where shadows lengthen between voices, where time bends under the heat, where everything slows until it nearly stops. You feel the weight of it, not heavy but hypnotic, the scent of figs and dust, the faint echo of the baths still clinging to your skin. The hum of the city is like a heart half asleep. You could close your eyes now, and the market would continue. The voices blending, the fountains murmuring, the sun slowly turning toward its descent. You could drift here for hours, for centuries, and Rome would keep breathing around you. Softly, endlessly, like a dream that never wakes. Chapter 5e, the afternoon siesta. Beneath the quiet arches the sun has reached its highest throne. It sits directly above Rome now, a white, steady eye gazing down upon marble, brick, and tiled roofs. The marketplace that only moments ago murmured with motion has begun to quiet. The voices thin out, the sound of sandals softens. The air itself thickens, heavy as wool. It is the hour when even the gods seem to sleep. You begin to walk again, leaving behind the scent of bread and figs. the echo of coins, and the shimmer of pottery under the awnings. A long, empty street stretches ahead. It glows with heat, the stones pale and bright as bleached bone. Every footstep sounds dull, swallowed by the stillness. Here, under a row of arches, the shade begins, cool at first, almost startling after the sun, and then warm again, but in a slower, deeper way. The arches belong to an old aqueduct, now silent. Its water has been diverted elsewhere, leaving only a whispering wind to trace its tunnels. The air beneath carries a smell of stone dust and time. A few figures linger in the shade. An old man lies on his back, hat over his eyes, breathing slow and even. Beside him, a dog curls in a perfect circle, chest rising and falling with the same rhythm. In another archway, two women sit on overturned baskets, talking in voices barely above a murmur, more like the hum of bees than speech. You pass them softly, your own steps echoing between the columns, each sound fading a little more than the last. You feel as if you are walking not through space, but through the folds of time itself. In the distance, a fountain still runs, though slower now. The water seems lazier, heavier, as if it too has grown tired. Each drop falls like a long sigh. The stone basin glows in the light, veins of marble gleaming faintly beneath a thin film of moss. A child leans over the edge, fingers drifting through the surface, drawing circles in the water. The ripples move outward, strike the edge, and return, smaller and softer, until the surface is calm again. Everything here moves in that same rhythm, a motion, a pause, a fading. The houses around you are quiet, a wooden shutters half closed. Doors slightly ajar to let in the faintest breeze. Somewhere inside, you hear the slow rattle of a clay jar being set down. A domestic sound, ordinary, comforting and ancient. The smell of olive oil and warm dust lingers. In one open window, a white curtain sways, in out, like the breath of a sleeping world. You pause beneath an arch and look up. Above you, swallows trace lazy circles in the sky. Their wings flash briefly in the sunlight, then vanish against the brightness. Even their cries sound slower now, drawn out, softened by the air. Rome in the afternoon becomes a city of sighs. Every sound turns round at the edges, smoothed by the heat. You can no longer tell where the wind ends and the silence begins. You walk toward the Tiber, its slow gleam visible between buildings. The river looks almost motionless, a mirror of copper light. Only the faintest ripples move where a leaf floats downstream, circling as it goes. On the bank, a fisherman sleeps beside his line, hat over his face. The hook drifts just below the surface, unbothered. Nothing bites, nothing moves. The fish, too, are sleeping. You watch for a while, the man, the river, the slow glint of water, until the whole scene seems to sway, not in movement, but in stillness. Even your own heartbeat slows, aligning with the rhythm of the world around you. Farther along the river, a cluster of cypress trees stands tall, their shadows long and cool. Beneath them, small figures rest, laborers, merchants, and a soldier with his helmet beside him. Some lie on their backs, arms folded. Others sit with heads bowed, their bodies stilled by the heat. The cypress branches move slightly, their whispering leaves brushing against one another. The sound is faint, almost like distant rain. But the sky is clear, washed pale and endless. Above the trees, the light has changed. It is no longer sharp. It has softened, turning golden at the edges, as if the afternoon were slowly exiling. Everything feels thick and slow, each breath, each sound, each shadow. You sit on a low stone wall and close your eyes. The wall is warm, smooth, and alive with the stored heat of the sun. When you rest your hand on it, you feel the day itself pulsing faintly beneath the surface. The stones have seen centuries of days just like this. Quiet, heavy, drowsy, and they carry that memory still. You breathe in deeply. Dust thimes sunlight. You breathe out. Silence. A gentle wind passes over your face. You can almost hear it, a slow, invisible hand brushing through the streets, between doorways, over fountains, and over the still figures of Rome. The city is sleeping now in one vast communal dream. The baker who was shaping bread in the morning has gone to rest, leaving the ovens to cool. The potter's wheel has stopped spinning. The candles that burned in the marketplace are now small pools of soft wax, their wicks curled and still. Even the pigeons on the rooftops are quiet, eyes half closed in the shadow of the eaves. Time itself feels like it has lain down. If you were to whisper, even softly, your voice might hang in the air for a moment, uncertain, weightless, before dissolving. Every sound feels too heavy to carry far. You listen. Nothing. Then, faintly, a single bell rings in the distance. Its tone is low and drawn out, and it seems to fall rather than echo. You imagine the bell swinging slowly in its tower, the rope swaying like a pendulum of sleep. When you open your eyes again, the light has changed once more, not much but enough. The sun has tilted westward, and the world's edges have softened. A golden haze lies across the city, thick as honey. Through the arches, the streets seem longer now, the shadows deeper, and the air more still. A cart rolls by, its wheels turning lazily, the mule's hooves muffled in dust. The driver hums a low tune, tuneless and tired, as though even melody has melted in the heat. You follow him with your eyes until he disappears into the haze. Then you are alone again, surrounded by the sound of nothing. It is a beautiful nothing, the kind of silence that is not absence but fullness, the air heavy with unseen motion. It is the silence of ancient afternoons, when everything rests in balanced life, stone air, and time all breathing together. Somewhere far away, in one of the shaded courtyards, a door creaks open. A faint voice calls, soft and drawn out. Then another door closes with a hollow, wooden sigh. And then, once again, stillness. The arches above you frame pieces of the sky, bright white, pale blue, a drifting bird, and each arch seems like a doorway into a deeper kind of sleep. You imagine the entire city stretching beneath those arches, each breath drawn slower, each thought dimmer, each sound folding inward until there is nothing left but Rome itself, breathing, dreaming, glowing softly under the afternoon sun. And as you stand there, the day itself feels like it might never end. The siesta will pass, yes, the shadows will move, the people will rise, the markets will fill again. But right now, in this still moment beneath the quiet arches, it feels eternal. The kind of moment that slips gently into memory, that hums faintly at the edge of waking, that invites you, like the city, to drift, to rest, to dissolve into the rhythm of the world's slow, sleepy breath. Chapter 60. The Evening Fires. When Rome wakes again in shadows, the stillness begins to stir. It is not a noise that wakes the city, nor a single motion, but a slow, collective exhale, a quiet return to life. The sun has begun to lower, its golden light now thick and amber, stretching long fingers through the arches and alleys, touching the stone as if reluctant to let go. Rome glows from within, as though the day has melted into the walls themselves. The heat lingers, but softer now, like a hand resting on the skin rather than pressing against it. The air tastes faintly of dust and baked bread, and the faint scent of olive oil floats from open windows, where families begin to stir from their afternoon rest. In the baker's alley, a door creaks open. A man steps into the fading light, his apron dusted white, his hair was damp with heat. He yawns, stretches, and glances at the empty street as if remembering the world. He walks to the oven, still warm from the morning's fire, and places new kindling within. Dry sticks, bits of vine, and a scrap of olive wood. The sound of crackling begins again, soft, hesitant, like a whisper finding its voice after a long silence. One by one, other doors follow. A merchant slides back the shutters of his stall. A woman lifts a clay jar of water to the window sill, the light catching the rim in a quiet shimmer. A child laughs somewhere, the sound echoing down the stone corridor and vanishing like a ripple in dusk. The city is neither awake nor asleep. It lingers between, in that tender hour when the day folds itself gently into night. You walk again through the streets. The light has shifted to bronze, and every object seems outlined in a halo of dust and warmth. A cat crosses your path. Its fur is glowing like liquid copper. It pauses, looks at you once, and disappears between the pillars of a temple. Smoke rises from scattered rooftops, thin, blue trails that curl and twist into the darkening sky. They carry the scent of pine and olive wood, and something else, the faint sweetness of figs roasting over coals. Near the forum, a few early torches have been lit. Their flames are small, fragile, flickering nervously in the wind, but each one adds a pulse of life to the gathering dusk. A vendor lights a lamp at his stall, cupping his hands around it to shield it from the breeze. The flame catches, wavers, and then steadies, a tiny sun reborn from oil and wick. He nods to himself and begins to arrange his wares, again carved trinkets, pottery, and small bronze charms meant to keep away bad luck. The crowd is sparse, but growing, people drifting like shadows from side streets, quiet, unhurried, their voices low and steady. You follow them. The marketplace that had slept all afternoon is slowly breathing again, not with the chaotic noise of morning, but with something gentler, more rhythmic, like the heartbeat of a creature waking from a long dream. The air is thick with scent, smoke, olives, fish grilling on skewers, and the tang of fresh, cut herbs. It wraps around you, warm and soft, a lullaby of the senses. Lanterns sway gently from ropes tied between the stalls, their flames painting moving patterns on the cobblestones. Children chase one another between them, their laughter quick, high, then fading as they disappear into the next street. A musician sits at the corner, plucking a small lyre, each note drawn out and mellow, rising like a sigh, falling into silence. The melody has no beginning or end, just a gentle, circular rhythm that seems to blend with the pulse of the evening. You pause near a fountain again. The water still flows, but it looks different now, darker, deeper, like molten glass catching the light of the torches. Coins glimmer faintly beneath the surface. Someone tosses another in, and the sound, a soft metallic plink, seems to echo for a long time before fading. Above you, the sky is turning violet, then blue, then the deep, endless color of ink. The first star flickers to life, small, hesitant, and soon joined by another and another, until the heavens themselves seem to breathe. In one open courtyard, a family gathers around a small fire. The flames throw golden light across their faces. The father speaks slowly, hands moving as he tells a story. The mother listens, smiling faintly, while a child stares into the fire, eyes reflecting the dance of the embers. Every so often, someone adds a branch to the flames. The fire answers with a low sigh, and the shadows shift across the walls. The scent of burning pine fills the air, sweet, smoky, ancient. You stand by the entrance, unseen, watching the quiet ritual unfold. There is something sacred in its simplicity, a family, a flame, and the steady rhythm of voices rising and falling with the night. Beyond the courtyard, in the narrow lanes, Rome begins to hum again. Not the sharp hum of trade or traffic, but a low, even murmur, the sound of countless lives returning, gently, to their evening rhythm. You can hear sandals scuffing against stone, the clink of cups, the distant call of a fruit seller offering figs and honey by lamplight, and somewhere, far off but clear, the soft ring of a blacksmith's hammer, slow and deliberate, as if the metal itself is half asleep and needs to be reminded of its form. As you walk, you notice how the torches make the shadows come alive. Every wall flickers with slow movement, faces, outlines, and gestures that seem to appear, then vanish again. It is as if the city remembers all the people who have ever walked here and lets them drift briefly through the present. You reach a small square, where a single statue stands, a marble figure weathered, its face was worn smooth by time. The torchlight trembles across its surface, and for a moment, it looks almost human. The shadows gather around its base, curling like smoke, as though bowing before the memory it holds. Above, the moon rises, a pale disk behind a haze of thin clouds. Its light spills softly across the rooftops, touching the terracotta tiles, the bronze domes, the tips of columns. Each glows faintly, like embers that refuse to die. The city beneath it breathes deeply, a slow inhale of night air, a quiet exhale of smoke. Every house, every street, every sleeping dog or whispering voice moves together now, one great living body of silence and shadow. You find yourself once more at the river. The Tiber glimmers, a ribbon of dark light wending through the heart of the city. Small fires burn along its banks, their reflections quivering in the water like drifting souls. A boat passes silently, its oars dipping and rising with hypnotic rhythm. The sound, water meeting wood, is soft and steady, the heartbeat of evening. A lantern hangs from the boat's bow. Its glow touches the face of the man rowing, calm, expressionless, as though he too were carved from marble. He glides past, leaving only ripples behind. Ripples that catch the light, shimmer once, and fade into the dark. The air cools further now. The warmth of the day lingers only in the stones, beneath your feet, in the walls beside you. You can feel it fading, slowly, like a dream you almost remember. Somewhere, a woman hums an old song, her voice distant but clear, drifting from an unseen window. It mingles with the whisper of the river, the murmur of the streets, the sigh of the night breeze. All of Rome seems to be humming with her, softly, endlessly, as if the whole city has become a lullaby. And as you stand in that sound, the sound of an empire at rest, alive but unhurried, you feel your own thoughts soften, your own breath slow. The day has folded itself into night, the torches have become stars on earth, and the city, ancient and eternal, has learned once again how to sleep. You watch as the last bit of sunlight fades from the western sky, and in its place a deeper, quieter fire begins to glow, not from flame or star, but from the silence itself. The silence of Rome alive with memory, glowing softly in the heart of the dark. Chapter 7 say, the tavern of shadows, murmurs, wine, and the soft laughter of night has settled fully now. Not a sudden arrival, but a slow unfurling. A velvet curtain that has crept across the Roman sky and draped itself over the 7 hills. The stars shimmer faintly above, caught in a thin veil of mist rising from the river. Each one seems to breathe, pulsing gently, as though whispering secrets to the sleeping city below. And beneath that quiet dome of darkness, the streets glow softly with the last traces of firelight. Lanterns hang from carved beams and wooden posts, their flames swaying with the evening breeze, casting amber halos on the cobblestones. The noise of day has long gone, but in its place a softer symphony stirs. Murmurs, laughter, the clinking of cups, a low hum of human warmth, spilling gently from doorways and corners like the scent of wine in the air. You follow that sound through a narrow lane, a small current of life running between the stone arteries of the sleeping empire. The walls here are close and cool, your footsteps echo faintly, blending with distant music. A harp plucked lazily, each note lingered long enough to touch the silence. The smell reaches you before the door does. Roasted herbs, old wood, and the sweet sting of red wine. And then you see it, a door half open, light spilling out onto the street in a thin golden line. Inside, shadows moving, soft voices rising and falling, the quiet rhythm of cups and laughter. You step closer. The tavern is small, one of the countless that live between the arches of Rome's lower quarters. But within its walls, the night feels deep and infinite. The light comes from oil lamps set in bronze bowls, their flames trembling with every whisper of air. Smoke curls upward, thick and slow, like incense rising to invisible gods. The tables are worn smooth by years of hands and stories. At one, a pair of old men lean close, heads nearly touching as they speak. At another, two women sit in silence, eyes heavy, smiling faintly at something only they seem to understand. In one corner, a boy plucks at the strings of a lyre, the melody soft, circular, half forgotten before it even ends. You take a seat near the back. The wood creaks beneath you, the table cool against your fingers. A jug of wine stands nearby, half full, its rim is catching the lamplight. You pour slowly, watching the red liquid swirl into the cup, thick, dark, reflecting the fire like a pool of molten dusk. The first sip tastes of grapes and stone, the second of warmth, the third of quiet forgetfulness. Time softens. The voices around you blur into one low hum, a soothing tide that rises and falls without direction. Across the room, a storyteller begins to speak, not loudly, but with the kind of voice that draws attention without ever asking for it. He sits at a small table near the fire, a cup in one hand, the other tracing slow circles in the air as he talks. No one interrupts. They've heard his tales before, not for the stories themselves, but for the way he tells them. The rhythm, the pauses, the soft crackle of the fire woven between his words. He speaks of ships and distant seas, of emperors and forgotten cities, but all of it feels far away, as if filtered through a dream. Even the names he says, Caesar, Neptune, Fortuna, drift by like leaves on water. They are not commands, not declarations, but echoes of a memory the city itself might be dreaming. The fire pops, sending a brief shower of sparks into the air. For a heartbeat, the whole tavern glows, every face, every cup, every drifting thought bathed in gold. And then the light settles again, quiet and soft. The storyteller's voice lowers. He speaks now of Rome at night, of wandering spirits who move unseen, of the gods who still linger in old walls, listening to the breath of those who sleep. His words fall slower, heavier, like the last drops of rain after a storm, and as he finishes, no one claps, no one even speaks. They simply sit, still, suspended, breathing together in the same silence. The moment stretches. Then, quietly, someone refills a cup, someone else laughs, a small, sleepy sound. The tavern exhales and the night moves on. Outside the window, the moon has climbed higher. Its pale light seeps through the wooden slats, painting silver lines across the floor. A moth drifts through the lamplight, its wings trembling, chasing something it never catches. The music begins again. Slower now, a few notes on the harp, each one echoing longer than the last. The boy playing it closes his eyes. You can see the rhythm moving in his fingers. Steady, patient, as though he's plucking not strings, but the very air itself. The melody finds its way into the room's breathing, into the soft murmur of conversation, the quiet turning of cups, the sigh of someone leaning back in their chair. At the table beside you, a woman hums under her breath, barely audible, her voice blended with the music. She wears a shawl the color of dusk, and in her eyes is the calm of someone who has watched many nights just like this one unfold. Her hand rests on a jug of wine. Now and then, she traces the rim with her finger, and the sound it makes is a faint ring, a single clear note that seems to hang in the air long after it's gone. A man sits beside her, his head bowed. His words were slow and slurred with warmth. They do not speak to fill the silence, but to decorate it. Each phrase is another thread, woven gently into the tapestry of night. The tavern grows dimmer as the lamps burn low. The flames shrink, curling into themselves, and the shadows stretch longer. Outside, the streets are nearly empty now. A dog's bark echoes once, then fades. The sound of footsteps passes, measured, steady, and then only the wind remains, brushing against the shutters like a sigh. Inside, the last of the wine is poured. The storyteller has gone quiet. His eyes were half closed. Someone begins to clean the tables, moving slowly. Their movements a kind of ritual, not to finish the night, but to prepare it for sleep. You finish your drink. The cup is warm from your hand, the last drops glimmering at the bottom like liquid light. As you set it down, you feel a heaviness, not of fatigue, but of contentment. The kind that settles deep, like sand at the bottom of a calm sea. You stand and for a moment, the whole room sways softly, as if it too were part of the river's rhythm outside. You look once more at the faces, half lit, half shadowed, each of them suspended in their own gentle drift between waking and dream. Then you turn toward the door. The air outside is cool, carrying with it the scent of smoke and distant rain. The street is quiet now, the kind of quiet that belongs not to emptiness, but to peace. You walk slowly, past the sleeping stalls, past the shuttered houses, toward the faint sound of the river again. Above, the moon shines steady and pale, and for a moment, it feels as if all of Rome, every torch, every voice, every story told and forgotten, is moving gently beneath its watchful light. The night deepens. The fires fade, and somewhere, far behind you, in the Tavern of Shadows, a single harp note trembles once more, then disappears, melting into silence. Chapter 80. The River of Echoes. Reflections beneath the moon. The night has grown softer now, as though the air itself has fallen half asleep. Even the sounds that linger seem to move slower, gentler, as if they are wading through a dream. The streets of Rome have emptied. The tavern's faint laughter is far behind you, dissolving into memory. Only your footsteps remain, quiet and rhythmic against the cobblestones, a sound that feels less like walking and more like breathing. The lamps are fewer here. Each one burns low, its flame flickering like a heartbeat about to rest. Between them lies darkness, soft, inviting, endless, and somewhere ahead you hear it, the slow murmur of the river. The Tiber, it waits as it always has. Ancient, patient, older than the marble and brick that cradle it. Even in the deepest night, it breathes. You can hear its whisper. Before you see its silver surface, the air grows cooler as you approach. Whisper, approach, and a fine mist hangs above the water, curling like ghostly threads that drift with the current. And then approach. You see it. The river glimmers under the moonlight, you moonlight, each ripple catching the pale glow and breaking it into trembling shards. It moves not quickly, but with an eternal kind of slowness, a measured, eternal rhythm that feels older than memory itself. You stop at the edge of the embankment. The stones are cool beneath your fingers, moonlight. Fingers. As you lean forward, watching the water pass, the reflection of the moon wavers, as a circle of light torn gently apart and stitched back together with every motion of the current. Across the river, the shapes of Rome's temples stand in silhouette, pillars and arches rising like sleepwalkers against the horizon. Their reflections dance upon the water, distorted and graceful, as though the gods themselves are stirring in their marble dreams. The sound of the river deepens, a low hum, steady and endless. It fills the silence, like the breathing of some ancient being. You close your eyes. For a moment, it feels as though you are floating, not standing, drifting upon the surface between water and sky, between this world and another that hums quietly beneath it. There are faint echoes here, not loud, not distinct, but felt, the kind that move not through air, but through time. A whisper of sandals on stone, a murmur of voices long gone, the faint clang of metal, the rustle of linen, the sigh of prayers whispered to forgotten gods. Each sound appears, lingers, and fades, like ripples born from a single drop, vanishing into the stillness that surrounds them. It's as if the river remembers everything and forgets nothing. A small boat drifts by, its wooden hull casting a line of shadow through the reflection. The oars dip in and out of the water, hull is water, leaving circles that widen, overlap, and disappear. The man rowing it is silent water, a lone figure outlined by moonlight. His movements are slow, steady, and steady. He's someone who has no destination and no hurry to find one. He does not look toward you and steady you, nor away. He simply exists you, as much a part of the river as the current itself. And for a long moment you feel a kinship with him. Two shapes adrift in the same quiet dream, each moving forward without needing to arrive anywhere. The wind carries the faint scent of wet stone and olive wood. Somewhere a bell tolls once you, deep and low, rolling across the water like distant thunder. It fades slowly, leaving a trace of vibration in the air. The city's torches are dwindling now. Each one extinguishes in turn slowly, until the night belongs almost entirely to the moon. Its light drapes across the river, turning the surface into a ribbon of liquid silver. You can almost hear it glisten, river, a sound so soft it feels more imagined than heard. And yet, it lulls you each shimmer, each ripple, each sigh of the current, drawing you deeper into the rhythm of sleep. You sit on a stone bench by the water's edge. The world seems to breathe in unison. You, the river, the city, all bound by the same gentle pulse. The reflections move like drifting thoughts, a torchlight flicker here, a fragment of a column there, the faint glow of a window far away. They come and go without meaning. Meaning? Yet each one feels familiar meaning. Like dreams returning from a place you've never been. You dip your fingers into the water. It is cool and smooth, flowing around your hand with patient calm. Tiny ripples spread outward, distorting the moon's reflection, making it tremble, as though the sky itself were breathing with you. The longer you sit, the less you feel the difference between body and air. The cool dampness settles on your skin, and you begin to sense the boundary between self and night growing thin. You hear your own heartbeat, slowing to match the river's rhythm, each pulse like a soft oar dipping into water. You imagine, perhaps, that if you lean just a little further forward, the current would take you heartbeat, not to the sea, but deeper into the silence itself. A silence where there are no words, no city, no memory, only motion, endless and kind. The moon's reflection stretches, breaking apart again. It looks like a path now. A glimmering trail of light leading somewhere far down the river, into the horizon where night and water merge. You watch it, and the thought drifts through you, soft and unhurried. Perhaps that's where dreams go when they're done. To the place where even echoes sleep. Somewhere, a faint whisper, a woman's voice singing, not near, not far. A lullaby perhaps, or a prayer to Luna, the pale goddess who rides the night. The words are lost to the water, perhaps water, but the tone remains water, rising and falling like the current, as if the river itself has begun to hum. You close your eyes again. You can feel it now. The vibration of sound, the cool mist on your face, the rhythm of unseen waves lapping gently against the walls of time. Your breath matches it. Your thoughts loosen, and the world blurs, becoming one long, continuous sigh. You dream, or perhaps you don't. The difference no longer matters. Images drift like petals in water, a torch reflected upside down, the shadow of an archway, a single drop falling from a leaf. Everything feels suspended upside down, weightless, untethered, floating between one heartbeat and the next. The river hums its endless lullaby, and even the stars above seem to sway to its rhythm. Each one flickers like a candle seen through water, lullaby, water. Distant yet intimate, a sky mirrored in a dream. Time loses shape. You could have been here minutes, water. Minutes or centuries. The river doesn't care. It carries all things forward, minutes, forward, slowly, gently, until even memory becomes a kind of current forward. A soft movement beneath the surface of thought. You open your eyes once more. The moon has shifted slightly. Its light motes light is a diffuse now, light is no, spreading across the water like silk. You stand, though the motion feels like part of the dream itself. The city around you is completely still now, as if every stone and pillar has chosen to rest for a while. You take a breath, and the air fills you with quiet breath, and not emptiness, but peace, the kind of peace that only comes when everything, even sound, has learned to sleep. You turn away from the river. Its murmur follows you, fading slowly with each step, until it becomes just another echo woven into the fabric of night. And as you walk, the thought stays with you. That Rome, even in silence, never truly sleeps. It only drifts, like the river itself, between one dream and the next, carrying the weight of time in ripples that never end. The moon watches quietly from above. The air is still, and all around you, the city exiles, a single slow breath beneath the endless whisper of the River of Echoes. Chapter 19. The Temple of Forgotten Gods, where prayers sleep beneath the stars. The path from the river rises slowly, like the edge of a dream coming back into light. The Tiber murmurs below, its silver surface soft and endless, and beyond it, Rome lies quiet, heavy with night. The hour has grown late, though in this world of drifting silence, time feels less like a line and more like a tide, washing softly back and forth. Your footsteps move through faint dust, past the outlines of stones once walked by thousands. A cool breeze moves through the grass, whispering over fragments of marble, broken pillars, and the faint trace of an inscription. You follow the sound, that calm, ancient hush that only old cities carry, until you see it ahead, a temple, or what remains of one. The columns are half gone, their edges softened by centuries of rain. The steps leading up are cracked but still proud, still straight, like old bones refusing to bow. Ivy crawls up the marble, dark leaves glimmering faintly in the moonlight, and above the stars have gathered thickly, hanging over Rome like a ceiling of distant lamps. You pause at the base of the stairs. The night feels slower here, as though the air itself remembers the chants, the sandals, and the flicker of oil lamps long gone. Somewhere beneath your feet, the dust of forgotten gods rests in sleep. You take a step upward, then another. The sound of your sandals brushing the stone feels impossibly soft. A faint echo answers, a hollow sound, gentle and full of distance. Inside, the temple is open to the sky. The roof fell away long ago, leaving the stone walls like arms cupped toward the heavens. There is no altar now, only a flat slab of marble, cracked through the middle, where once offerings must have been placed. A breeze moves through. It smells faintly of rain, old wax, and moss. You breathe it in, and for a moment you can almost hear them. The priests, the murmuring voices, the deep hum of ancient ritual. It was here, perhaps, that prayers once gathered. Not loud ones, but quiet ones. The kind that whispered for health, for luck, for love, for a small favor from invisible powers. And in the vastness of the Roman night, maybe some were answered, and maybe some drifted upward, fading into the stars. The silence feels sacred now, not because anyone believes, but because the stone remembers. You sit down on one of the fallen blocks. Its surface is cool. Around you, the temple walls catch bits of starlight, glinting faintly as though they too are dreaming. A thin mist begins to form, the kind that rises from earth still holding the warmth of the day. It curls around the pillars, filling the space between them with something soft and shifting. The moon, reflected in the mist, looks like another world. And in this slow moment, Rome becomes something else entirely. Not the city of emperors and conquest, but the city of forgotten prayers. A place where even gods have fallen asleep. You close your eyes, and in the hush that follows, memory begins to flow like the river again. You see faint outlines, not clearly, but enough to imagine. There's the priest of Jupiter, washing his hands before sunrise. The smell of oil and smoke fills the air as he prepares the sacred fire. There's the young woman carrying a basket of flowers, her sandals brushing marble steps as she places the blooms on the altar. There's an old man sitting in the back, his head bowed, not praying to win or conquer, but simply to be remembered. All of it passes like shadows, quiet, gentle, unreal. And then, just as softly, the images fade. The mist deepens. The air grows heavier with silence. Only the sound of your breathing and the faint hum of the earth beneath remain. You realize that here, even the gods must have learned to rest. A faint rustle draws your attention. A small lizard slipping between stones, a leaf tumbling in the wind. The kind of small sound that fills the spaces of great silence. Above, the constellations shimmer in their eternal positions. Orion still hunting Venus, still bright over the horizon. The same sky, you think, that once watched Caesar and Cicero, slaves and soldiers alike. The same cold, infinite gaze. And yet tonight it feels nearer. As though the sky itself has bent a little closer. Curious about the lone figure sitting in the ruins of its oldest stories. The stars blink faintly, and for a moment, you imagine they are candles. The kind lit by unseen hands, the kind that never go out. In the corner of the temple, something gleams faintly, an offering dish. Perhaps you rise and walk toward it. The bowl is half buried in dust, filled with small stones, bits of pottery, and time itself. You lift one of the stones, smooth, worn, weightless. On its surface, faint markings remain, maybe a prayer once carved by someone whose name is long gone. You hold it for a moment, then set it back down. Everything here is like that, fading, gentle, content to be forgotten. The air grows warmer now. Not from the sun, it is still night, but from the pulse of the earth, the hidden warmth beneath the marble. The faint scent of olive wood smoke drifts from somewhere distant, perhaps a tavern by the river, or a hearth still burning in a baker's home. You realize that Rome is never fully asleep. It only breathes slower. The city's heart beats beneath layers of stone, steady, eternal. The temple walls sigh as the wind moves through again. A loose fragment shifts, tapping softly like a heartbeat echoing through marble. You lean back against the pillar and watch the mist glow in the moonlight. Each breath feels slower, heavier. The night deepens, and you find yourself sinking, not down but inward, into the rhythm of stone and silence, into the hush that ancient civilizations leave behind. You remember the baths, the market, and the tavern. All of them now feel like memories from another dream. You can almost see their shapes fading into the mist, voices that spoke too long ago to still carry meaning, yet somehow they comfort you. Perhaps that is all prayer really is, the soft persistence of memory. Time drifts again. The stars wheel overhead. The moon moves slightly westward, brushing the temple walls with silver, and still you sit, not waiting, not seeking, just being. A temple without gods, a prayer without words, a night without end. The silence is no longer empty, it's full full of the weight of centuries of every whisper ever breathed in these stones. You close your eyes again, and this time, you don't imagine, you simply feel the faint pulse of the ground, the cool rhythm of the air, the slow settling of your thoughts like dust finding its place. If there is anything divine left here, it is not a being, it's this feeling of stillness. The peace of knowing that even the greatest empires fall asleep, and that in their sleep they are beautiful. Far away, a bell tolls. Just one sound, carried faintly through the night. Then nothing again. The mist has thickened so much that the stars seem to float within it. You reach out a hand, and it passes through the air as though through water. Every motion feels slow, deliberate, and ancient. You think of the river again, the Tiber, winding endlessly around the city's heart. You imagine it carrying these dreams, these lost prayers, down to the sea. And as that thought unfolds, something in you releases. Gently, quietly, like a string untied, you exhale. The sound echoes faintly through the temple. For a moment it feels like even the stars are listening, and then everything fades again into the deep, velvety quiet, where marble, mist, and memory become one. The gods sleep, the city breathes, and you too drift softly into the timeless rhythm of Rome. Chapter 100. The road beyond the Chapter 10 walls. Where dreams follow the moon, the temple fades behind you like a slowly dissolving thought. Stone turning to shadow, shadow turning to mist. The air outside feels cooler now, the moon higher, its pale light washing the ancient ruins in silver dust. You step down the worn stairs one by one, your hand brushing the cool marble rail where 1,000 hands must have passed before. Below, the faint hum of the Tiber still drifts through the night, steady, distant, like the heartbeat of the city. You pause and listen to it. The sound doesn't rush, it breathes. It flows with a patience that belongs only to things older than memory. For a moment, you look back. The temple stands quietly beneath the stars, no longer grand or sacred, only still, only patient. You bow your head slightly, not in reverence but in quiet acknowledgement, and then begin to walk. The path leads downward, through grass whispering with dew, toward the edge of the sleeping city. The streets of Rome are nearly empty now. A faint torch burns outside a tavern door. Somewhere, a dog barks once and falls silent. The stones beneath your feet glisten faintly from the evening's mist. Smooth, old, familiar. You walk slowly, not because you are tired, but because the world itself seems to have slowed around you. Each step feels softer, less distinct. You pass an archway where ivy drapes in heavy folds, and beyond it, a narrow lane that once must have been loud with footsteps, carts, and laughter. Now, it is only echoes, the ghost of movement that lingers when everything else has gone, and above, the moon continues to follow, patient, unblinking, and pale as marble. You cross a small square where an ancient fountain trickles weakly. Its basin is cracked, half filled with rainwater. A single star reflects in its surface, trembling slightly with the ripples. You watch it for a long time, that one trembling light caught between water and sky, and then move on, through the dim arches that lead outward, past homes and courtyards, until the walls begin to rise in front of you. The Servian wall, old, rough, and silent, built before the emperors, before marble and gold. These stones remember the breath of shepherds, the fear of invaders, and the first heartbeat of a growing city. You lay your hand upon it. It feels cold, but alive in a way only things that have endured can be. Beyond it lies the road. The gate ahead yawns open, an old archway where the guards once stood. Now, only the wind moves through it, carrying faint scents of cypress and distant smoke. You step through, and with that step something changes. The air grows wider, the sound of the river fades. The city's weight, its dreams and dust and whispers, all fall gently away behind you. What lies ahead is softer. A countryside bathed in silver light, where olive trees gleam like ghosts of green, and the hills rise quietly in layers of shadow. The road stretches onward, pale and endless beneath the moon. You begin to walk again. Your feet make no sound on the ancient stones. The night is full of the smallest noises, the brush of grass, the chirp of a late cricket, and the sigh of wind in the cypress. Somewhere far away, a wolf calls, not in hunger, but in longing, as though it too is half awake in some dream of old Rome. The moon hangs low now, large and luminous. The air has the faint smell of thyme and dust. Each breath feels like a slow unfolding, calm, even, deep. You realize how far you've come, how long the dream has lasted. The city of emperors and markets, of baths and temples, now feels distant, like something you once read in a forgotten book. And yet it lingers, in your steps, in your heartbeat. In the rhythm of the stones beneath your feet, you pass an old milestone by the road, its inscription worn to smoothness, unreadable. Someone once carved it to measure distance, but now it measures only time. You rest your hand on it for a moment, feeling its quiet pulse. A few fireflies drift through the air, their light dim and uncertain. They seem to follow you, small flickers of life moving in the same slow rhythm as your breath. The road begins to rise slightly. From the crest of the hill, you can see it all. The soft curve of the Tiber reflecting moonlight, the faint glow of the city walls, and the shadows of aqueducts stretching like ribs across the valley. Rome lies below you now, vast, sleeping, eternal. It doesn't feel like a city anymore. It feels like a memory that never ended. The streets, the bath, and the temples all blur into one great dreamscape of stone and silence. You stand there a long time, watching it shimmer faintly beneath the stars. Then, very quietly, you whisper to the air, "Sleep well." The road ahead is gentler now. It winds between olive trees and small groves of cypress. A soft wind stirs their leaves, making a sound like whispers too old to understand. You think of the people who once walked this path, farmers, soldiers, lovers, slaves. Each step they took is still here, pressed into the dust beneath your feet. Maybe that's what history really is. Not stories or monuments, but the soft trail of footsteps that never quite fades. The moonlight turns the road pale as bone. You walk without hurry, and somewhere between one breath and the next, the boundaries of waking and dreaming begin to blur. The sound of your steps fades into the wind. The olive branches seem to sway in time with your heartbeat. The world grows vast, then smaller, then vast again, and you realize you're not leaving Rome. You're becoming part of it. Part of its rhythm is its quiet persistence, part of its endless, sleeping memory. Far ahead, you see a bridge, small and simple, crossing a narrow stream. The water glows faintly, reflecting the stars. You approach it slowly, the soft crunch of gravel beneath your sandals fading with each step. On the bridge, you pause. The stream murmurs gently beneath you, a silver ribbon winding into the distance. Its surface moves with the same calm rhythm as your breath. You lean against the low stone wall and close your eyes. For a moment, you feel as though the entire world is breathing through you. The city behind, the hills ahead, the river, the stars, and the quiet pulse of time. You are nowhere and everywhere at once. When you open your eyes, a faint fog has settled over the road ahead. It glows softly, silver against the dark. Through it, you can barely see the outline of another hill, another path, leading away into the unknown. And yet, it doesn't feel unknown. It feels like the next part of the dream. The road calls gently, not with urgency, but with the calm certainty of something that has always been waiting. You take a breath. You step forward. The mist wraps around you, cool and light as silk. Your footsteps make no sound now. The stars above blur softly, as if bending closer to listen. Each step feels slower, deeper, as though you are walking not through space, but through time itself. And the more you walk, the softer the world becomes. The more it begins to glow from within, as though the moon has melted into everything. The road, the fields, the air, all shimmer faintly with quiet light. And you realize, at last, that you are no longer merely walking out of Rome. You are walking into eternity. The last thing you see before the mist takes everything is the faint curve of the moon, shining above the hills. It looks like a gate. It looks like peace. You breathe once more, slow, deep, content. The air tastes of olive and smoke and stars. And as you step into the silver glow, the story of ancient Rome, its stones, its whispers, its wary gods, folds gently around you like a blanket of time. The road continues, endlessly quiet. The night deepens into forever, and you at last fall completely asleep. Chapter 11: The Countryside of Silent Hills. Where time walks slowly, the road beyond the old Roman gates winds like a memory. It moves in curves too soft to measure, through fields that glimmer faintly under the pale silver of a half-sleeping moon. You can still hear the echo of the city, faint, distant, like a heartbeat under a blanket of centuries. The stones of the Via Appia stretch ahead, worn smooth by the sandals of men long turned to dust. Each stone glows faintly with dew, and every drop of dew holds a reflection of the stars. There is no hurry now. The road itself seems tired. The listener walks slowly, or perhaps it is time that walks slowly, bending and stretching like the wind between the cypress trees. The air smells of damp grass, olive wood, and distant hearth fires. A single bird calls from somewhere unseen, and its note drifts through the darkness like the sigh of a forgotten god. The hills rise gently ahead, soft shapes against a dim sky, wrapped in mists that move like memories too shy to speak. In the first valley, the remains of an aqueduct stride across the earth. Its arches are broken, but the rhythm remains. The repetition of stone and shadow, stretching into the distance like a verse half remembered from an ancient poem. Beneath it, the grass grows wild. The moonlight threads through the open arches, weaving silver patterns on the earth. You pause there in the long hush, feeling how even the ruins seem to breathe. The silence of the countryside is not empty. It is full, like water held in a still pond, deep and unmoving. Further on, the path narrows. A small farmhouse leans against the hillside, its walls rough and worn by countless rains. Smoke rises lazily from the chimney. Through an open doorway, you glimpse a flicker of orange light. Someone stirring a pot, someone quietly alive in this sleeping world. A dog lifts its head, yawns, and then lowers it again. Even the animals, it seems, have learned the art of stillness. The fields stretch endlessly on either side, divided by low stone walls that crumble in places and vanish beneath wild vines. Olive trees stand like old philosophers, their twisted trunks whispering secrets to the wind. You can almost hear them, soft, dry voices murmuring of harvests long gone, of laughter and footsteps that once filled these paths. Time here does not pass, it settles like dust. The hills do not remember, they simply exist. A slow wind stirs. It carries with it the faintest scent of rosemary and soil, mingled with the ghost of bread from the faraway city. You realize that Rome itself feels like a dream now, something that existed not in space, but in thought. Out here under the open sky, the world has no beginning and no end. There is only rhythm, the slow creak of branches, the whisper of wind through grass, the endless breathing of the earth itself. You come to a small rise where the land opens up before you. The view is wide but soft, as though seen through the veil of half-sleep. The 7 hills are distant now, dark humps resting beneath the pale shimmer of stars. Between you and them lies the valley, fields, ruins, and the thin line of the Tiber, glimmering faintly. You sit on a low stone wall, feeling the chill of the night and the warmth of the slow air at once. The world feels both vast and intimate. The silence presses against your ears like water against the skin. A shepherd passes, his staff tapping softly against the stones. His footsteps are measured like the ticking of an old clock that forgot how to rush. Behind him walks a small cluster of sheep, white shadows drifting across the earth. None of them seem entirely real. Their bells make a faint, melodic sound, a single note that repeats and repeats until it merges with the rhythm of your heartbeat. You could fall asleep just to that sound, the echo of sheep bells fading through the folds of the hills. Farther along, a ruin stands by the roadside. A column here, a carved fragment there. Perhaps once it was a small temple, or perhaps a villa. It doesn't matter. The stones still hold warmth from the vanished sun, and the moss growing between them glows softly in the moonlight. You touch one of the columns. Its surface is rough and cool, but beneath your fingers you can almost feel the memory of hands that built it, hands that prayed here, hands that turned to dust 1,000 years ago. Time is not gone. It is sleeping, dreaming of itself. You walk again. The grass grows taller. Fireflies flicker low to the ground, tiny lamps of wandering souls. One hovers close to your hand before floating away, its glow pulsing like the slow breathing of night. You follow it without meaning to, through a field where the ground dips and rises like the chest of a sleeping giant. In the distance, an owl calls once, then twice, then not again. Silence folds over the sounds, soft and infinite. There is a sense that the world has stopped moving, that the moon has paused in its path just to watch the earth exhale. The countryside of Rome feels endless, and yet it feels enclosed, like the inside of a dream that refuses to let go. Every tree, every blade of grass seems aware of you, but in a quiet, accepting way. They do not judge your steps, they only listen. You reach a small stream. The water is clear and slow, its surface broken only by drifting leaves and tiny circles of light. You kneel beside it, watching the way the stars shimmer in the ripples. For a moment, you imagine that the water itself remembers every reflection it has ever held. Every moon, every face, every whispered word of passing travelers. It is a silent record of the world, written in movement and forgotten in the next breath. You drink from your hands. The water tastes of stone and sleep. When you rise, the hills have changed color, deeper now, softer. The mist has begun to lift, revealing the dark shapes of cypresses and the pale lines of old roads cutting across the land. The night deepens, but it is not dark, it is rich, velvety, and filled with invisible textures. A far-off light flickers on one of the hills, perhaps a lantern, perhaps a memory pretending to be one. You cannot tell anymore. As you walk again, the rhythm of your steps merges with the rhythm of the world. One step, one breath, one heartbeat. Each sound becomes softer, slower, until it seems you are walking not through space, but through time itself. Time that is no longer counting, only being. The countryside hums faintly, as though every stone and leaf is singing the same quiet note. You pause once more to look back. Rome is gone. The horizon is empty except for the faint gleam of its sleeping lights. Ahead lies only stillness. The vast, breathing stillness of the ancient world that has forgotten to wake. And so you continue walking, slowly, gently, with the soft patience of centuries. Because here, in the countryside of silent hills, time no longer moves, it merely waits. Chapter 12, The Shepherd's Fire Stories Beneath the Stars. The path curves once more through the valley, where the grass grows long and the night leans close. Somewhere ahead, a thin column of smoke rises into the dark, a small, wavering thread of orange light that dances like a thought refusing to fade. The air smells faintly of burning wood and wild herbs. It pulls you forward, step by step, through the soft hush of the countryside. The world is silent, except for the whisper of your feet brushing against the earth. The mist parts slowly, as if reluctant to disturb its own stillness. And there, on a gentle slope beside a low stone wall, you see it, a small fire, glowing like a living heart in the middle of endless night. A man sits beside it, a shepherd. His cloak is heavy, patched and dark, his face half hidden beneath the shadow of a hat. Around him, a few sheep rest in pale circles of light, their wool shimmering softly like spilled moonlight. They breathe slow, rhythmic breaths, the kind that could lull the whole world to sleep. The shepherd looks up as you approach. He does not seem surprised. In these hills, perhaps strangers are not strangers. They are simply echoes returning from a different time. He gestures silently for you to sit. You lower yourself to the ground near the fire. The warmth moves through your body like memory returning to forgotten places. The flames crackle quietly, folding and unfolding upon themselves. Each spark rises, flickers, then disappears into the black ocean of sky. Above, the stars burn steady and bright, countless eyes watching over the still earth. For a long while, there are no words, only the soft rhythm of night, the breathing of sheep, the whisper of wind, the slow crackle of wood. Then the shepherd speaks, his voice low and deep, like a song hummed by the mountains themselves. "You came from the city," he says without asking. "Yes," you answer, your voice barely more than air. "Then you have walked from noise into silence," he murmurs. "If you remember how." He pokes at the fire with a stick, sending up a small constellation of sparks. They float upward, golden and brief, before melting back into darkness. "The hills remember," he says. "They always remember, but they do not tell their stories to those who rush." He reaches into a small pouch and scatters something into the flames. Dried herbs, maybe sage or thyme. A faint new scent rises, sharp at first, then soft and sweet. The smoke twists lazily upward, curling and uncurling like the shape of forgotten dreams. You lean closer, the warmth wrapping around your face, and ask quietly, "What stories do they tell?" The shepherd's eyes glint beneath the brim of his hat. His voice drifts like wind through tall grass. "Stories older than stone," he says. "Stories the stars whisper to the earth when the world sleeps. Would you hear one?" You nod. The fire sighs. The night deepens. He begins slowly, as though summoning the tale not from memory, but from the soil itself. Long before the city of marble was built, before the emperors dreamed of gold, there were only the hills and a river that sang. The river was young then, full of laughter and light. It ran through the valleys like a child running toward the sun. The hills listened to its song and grew gentle, and the people who lived here, the first shepherds, the first wanderers, believed the river was alive, a spirit of time itself. His voice hums with rhythm, not the rhythm of speech, but of heartbeat and wind. They say, he continues, that once every 1,000 years, when the moon stood highest, the river stopped flowing, just for one night. And in that silence, if you listened, you could hear it whisper. It would tell you what it had seen: cities rising, kings falling, lovers parting, children laughing, the endless breathing of the earth. Those who heard it were never the same again. They walked slower, spoke softer, and carried silence inside them like a gift. He pauses. The fire crackles gently. Somewhere in the distance, an owl calls once, but time grew restless, he says. The world filled with noise, and the river forgot to stop. Now it flows without pause, carrying its stories away, too fast for any ear to catch. Only in the quietest of nights. His voice lowers to a whisper, or only when the heart beats slower than the wind, does it remember. You look into the flames, watching their slow dance. Each flicker seems to hold an image: a temple falling, a shepherd walking, a child laughing beside the water. You can almost hear the river now, far away, moving gently through the dark. The shepherd smiles faintly, as if he too hears it. The fire knows stories too, he says, stirring the embers. Would you hear one more? You nod again. This one is older still, he says, older than the hills. He leans forward. His face glows with the orange breath of the fire. They say the first flame was born in the sky. A star, lonely among its brothers, fell to earth. It struck the ground near the river and shattered into 1,000 sparks. Wherever they fell, life began. Seeds woke, rivers flowed, hearts beat. But one spark stayed awake. It became fire. And since then, wherever people gather, fire remembers the fall. It burns not to destroy, but to return home. Upward, always upward, back to the stars. He lifts his hand, palm open toward the flames. That is why we stare into it, he says softly. Because we are watching something that wants to go home. The silence that follows is vast. Even the sheep seem to listen. The stars above shimmer faintly, as if nodding. You feel drowsy now, not tired, but peacefully weightless. The stories settle inside you like warm stones. The world seems to expand and contract with every breath. The shepherd notices your slowing gaze. He nods gently, as though blessing your wariness. Sleep comes quickly in the hills, he says. Even the wind sleeps here. He reaches into his cloak and tosses one more branch into the fire. It catches slowly, glowing blue for a moment before turning gold. When you wake, he murmurs, you'll hear the dawn speaking through the grass. But for now, listen. Not to me, not to the fire. Listen to the space between. The flames quieten. The night grows heavy and soft. Somewhere beyond the circle of light, the land breathes. You hear the faint rush of the distant river, the murmur of leaves, the long sigh of the wind crossing the hills. You close your eyes. Behind your eyelids, the fire still flickers, but it no longer burns. It floats, weightless, drifting upward like the star it once was. The shepherd's voice becomes a thread of sound, fading gently. All stories are one story, he says, the story of returning. The sound of sheep breathing merges with your own. The fire's warmth becomes the warmth of sleep. The stars above blink slowly, patiently, as if keeping watch. You are not sure when the voice stops. Perhaps it never does. Perhaps the shepherd is still speaking, somewhere beyond hearing, his words curling into smoke and rising with the sparks toward the sky. The world folds inward, softly, infinitely. And in the countryside of silent hills, beneath 1,000 ancient stars, you drift, not away, but deeper, into the story of the earth itself. Chapter 13, The Whispering Ruins. When walls remember words, the first light of dawn arrives like a thought forming slowly in the mind of the world. Soft, golden, grey light spills gently over the sleeping hills, touching the dew that clings to the tall grass. Every drop glimmers faintly, holding a tiny reflection of the sky. Thousands of small dawns scattered across the earth. You wake to the quiet crackle of fading embers. The shepherd's fire is almost gone, its warmth now only a memory beneath the pale ash. The sheep have drifted away into the mist, and the shepherd himself, gone too, as if he were never there at all. Only a small footprint remains in the soft earth, leading toward the east, toward the first blush of morning. For a moment, you sit still, listening. The world hums softly, alive but unhurried. The grass sways with invisible rhythm, the air smells faintly of smoke and time, and far away, the river sighs in its endless flow. You rise, stretching your limbs. A body feels light, as though sleep and dream have become the same thing. There is a pull, a quiet beckoning in the distance, a shape half hidden in the morning haze. Stone arches, broken pillars, fragments of walls draped in vagues, the remains of something that walks. As you approach, the mist curls away like breath. The ruins reveal themselves, wide marble steps cracked by centuries, a colonnade where ivy has replaced banners, and the faint suggestion of an old courtyard where Mos now reigns as emperor. This was once a temple, perhaps, or a forum, or maybe something older, a place where words once held power. The air inside is cool, shadowed, and still. Your footsteps echo softly, as though the stones remember every sound they've ever heard. And maybe they do. You pause before a tall wall, half collapsed but still standing with quiet dignity. The marble is carved with faded letters, Latin inscriptions almost erased by rain and time. You run your fingers across them. They are smooth, worn, yet faintly warm, as though holding on to something more than memory. And then you hear it. Not a sound exactly. More like the suggestion of one. A whisper, rising and falling like a breath through leaves. At first you think it's the wind, but no. It's too deliberate, too human. You lean closer. The whisper seems to come from the stone itself. It speaks not in words, but in echoes. Voices overlapping, faint, distant, layered through time. You hear the murmur of priests chanting to gods whose names no one speaks anymore. You hear merchants haggling in the forum, laughter spilling through the streets, the clatter of sandals on stone. You hear a child calling for their mother. You hear silence filling the space where empires end. Each sound fades into the next, like waves folding into one another. The wall is alive with memory. Not a memory of people, but of presence itself. You close your eyes. The sound deepens. Now you are walking through the voices, through corridors that no longer exist, past doorways that lead into dreams. A woman's voice hums softly, a lullaby in a language you don't know but somehow understand. A man recites poetry to the air. A flute echoes faintly from somewhere unseen. Oars, but you realize they have never stopped. You open your eyes again. Light filters through the broken ceiling, catching on motes of dust that dance like small souls in the air. You move slowly through the ruins, touching each stone, each column, each fragment of the past. Wherever your hand rests, you feel that same faint vibration, the pulse of history, still beating beneath the surface. At one point, you stop before what seems to be the remains of an altar. It is covered in moss and small white flowers that have taken root in its cracks. You kneel, brushing them gently aside, and see faint carvings beneath. Not words this time, but symbols, spirals, circles, lines that intertwine like rivers meeting. The moment you touch them, a soft hum fills the air. It feels like music, ancient, slow, half-remembered. Not sung aloud, but carried through the air like light through mist. It surrounds you, then moves through you. The longer you listen, the more it feels as though the ruins are breathing. Each stone expands and contracts in rhythm with the earth itself. You breathe with it, without realizing, slow, calm, weightless. For a long time, you simply sit there, eyes half closed, letting the whispering walls speak. You do not need to understand the language. The meaning is older than words. It is the story of all things that rise, fall, and return to silence. As the story of you. As the sun climbs higher, the whispers grow softer, retreating like waves into the sea. You open your eyes. The ruins are quiet again. Only the sound of birds calling across the valley and a soft breeze moving through the arches. You rise slowly, feeling both lighter and older. The fire within you, the one the shepherd spoke of, seems to flicker gently again. You turn to leave, but as you do, a faint echo follows. A single word maybe, or just the shape of one. It drifts behind you like perfume, untranslatable yet perfectly clear. Remember. The path beyond the ruins glows faintly in the golden light. You walk away, each step echoing softly. The sound of the past following quietly at your heels. The hills stretch out before you, green and endless. The river winds below, silver in the sun. The air is warm, filled with the hum of bees and the sigh of time itself. You look back once, and for just a heartbeat, you see it. The ruins shimmer, not as broken stone, but as they once were, bright marble, tall columns, banners rippling in the breeze. You hear the murmur of 1,000 voices, then the vision fades as softly as mist dissolving in sunlight. You smile faintly. You do not feel loss, only peace. Because you understand now, nothing ever truly disappears. It only changes shape, waits, and whispers. And as you walk on toward the horizon, the whisper becomes a rhythm. The rhythm becomes a hum, and the hum becomes your own breathing, slow, steady, eternal. The morning deepens. The light warms your face. And somewhere within that warmth, the ruins still remember.
Chapter 14, The Road of Golden Dust, where footsteps fade into light. The morning sun rises higher over the hills, and the world begins to shimmer. Every blade of grass glows faintly, every pebble catches the light. The path ahead stretches like a ribbon of gold, winding gently across the countryside, a road that feels less like stone and more like memory. You begin to walk. The dust beneath your feet glows with each step, stirring small clouds that linger and then slowly settle back into stillness. There is no rush. The world moves at the same slow rhythm as your breathing. Somewhere behind you, the ruins fade into the haze, soft outlines against the sun. The voices that once whispered are gone now, but their echo lingers in your heartbeat, faint and familiar. You carry them with you, not as sound but as warmth. The road curves gently through rolling hills, where olive trees stand like silent witnesses. Their leaves flicker silver in the light breeze. The air smells faintly of earth and wild herbs, rosemary, sage, something older still, something that belongs to the soil more than to the wind. Birds cross the sky in slow arcs, their wings barely stir the air. Even the shadows seem unhurried, stretching long and thin, flowing gently across the fields. It feels as though you are walking through a painting that is still being made. Brushstrokes of light, dust and distance blending into one another, dissolving at the edges. After a while, you come upon a small stone marker by the side of the road. It is worn smooth by time, its inscriptions long gone. You touch it gently and feel again that faint hum, the same silent pulse you felt in the ruins. It vibrates softly, like a heartbeat buried deep in the earth. You realize that this road too remembers. Every traveller who has ever walked it has left a trace, not in the dust, but in the light itself. The sunlight thickens as the day grows warmer. It gathers around you like a soft cloak. The road ahead seems to glow brighter with every step, as though leading not through space but through layers of time. Each one lighter, softer, more transparent than the last. The fields widen. The horizon blurs. The air begins to shimmer with heat, but it doesn't feel hot. It feels like a veil, something between waking and dream. You pass an ancient milestone half buried in wildflowers. Beyond it, a grove of cypress trees rises like dark spires against the glowing sky. Their shadows stretch across the golden road, forming stripes of coolness in the light. You walk through them slowly, and each shadow feels like a memory. Fleeting, delicate, half-remembered. The cypresses whisper softly in the wind, and though their sound is only leaves brushing against air, it feels like words. Keep walking. You do. The path begins to rise gently. The dust shifts beneath your sandals, glowing brighter in the sunlight. It seems to cling to your skin, to your clothes, as if the earth itself is trying to make you a part of it. You pause and look back. The road behind you gleams faintly, a thread of gold winding through the valley. There are no footprints. The dust has already erased them. It doesn't feel like lost them. It doesn't feel like lost. It feels like release. You take a slow breath, the air thick with warmth and stillness. Every inhale feels deeper than the one before. Every exhale lighter, as if something is leaving you. Weight, memory, even thought. The world begins to quiet. Even the birds seem to move silently now. The trees no longer rustle, they simply exist in perfect stillness. The golden road leads onward, and you walk as though gliding through light. At the crest of a hill, the path opens into a wide plateau. From here, the world unfolds endlessly. Waves of hills fading into mist, the river glinting like silver far below, the horizon a line of molten gold. The sky is vast. The air, thick with sunlight, vibrates softly, and for a moment you can almost hear it. The hum of the world turning. You sit down at the edge of the road, the dust warm beneath your hands. The golden particles cling to your skin, glowing faintly in the light. You watch as they drift away with the slightest breath, swirling into the air like soft fireflies. You begin to realize that the road isn't just under your feet, it's within you. The same light that fills the sky flows through your veins. You close your eyes. The hum grows stronger. It isn't sound, not exactly. It's a presence, a vibration that fills every corner of the body and the space beyond it. It feels ancient, endless, kind. You remember every step you've taken. The streets of Rome, the baker's alley, the baths, the markets, the ruins, each fading now into the same quiet rhythm. All of them still exist, perhaps, somewhere within this golden dust. You exhale slowly, and the breath itself feels like light leaving the body. When you open your eyes, the world has changed. The road no longer looks like stone or dirt. It looks like sunlight solidified. The sky has deepened into a soft, endless gold. The air glows. You walk again, but now it feels like floating. Your footsteps make no sound. The horizon shimmers ahead. Not distant anymore, but close, waiting, alive. You begin to notice shapes in the light, faint outlines, as if memories themselves have taken form. A child running, a man carrying grain, a woman lighting a lamp. They move in silence, made of dust and glow, drifting through the road's warmth. You realize these are echoes of those who once walked here, all merging into one endless procession, and now you are among them. Each step feels lighter, slower. Your shadow fades, your form softens, begins to blend with the air. You are still walking, but less as a traveller and more as a thought. A whisper of motion carried by light. The hum deepens. The world breathes. The world breathes. At last, the road begins to dissolve into horizon. Not ending, but expanding until there is no difference between road, sky, and light. You pause, standing at the edge of everything. There is no need to move forward anymore. The journey has become you. The dust glows beneath your feet one last time, and then rises, swirling around you like mist. It touches your skin, your hair, your breath, and with each touch, you fade a little more. You are not gone. You are simply becoming part of the golden air. The memory of footsteps, the warmth of light, the soft whisper of time itself, and in the distance, where the hills shimmer into dream, the road continues, glowing faintly, waiting for the next wanderer to walk between memory and eternity. Chapter 15, The House Beyond the Horizon. Where light rests forever, the golden road fades, but your steps continue. They are lighter now, as if made of air and memory. The dust that once clung to your sandals has lifted into the wind, drifting away like slow-turning stars. The horizon, which had shimmered for so long, no longer feels far. It feels close, just beyond the next breath. The air here is softer. It has no edge, no temperature, only calmness. You walk and the light folds around you gently like a warm sheet settling upon a bed. In this silence, even the idea of sound has become a memory. You try to recall what voices were. The laughter of Rome's taverns, the whispers by the Tiber, the distant bells, but they have all melted into one long, slow hum that feels like the heartbeat of the sky itself. The path narrows, or maybe it widens. It's hard to tell. The light has erased boundaries. It all blends. The sky with the earth, the road with your breath with time. You feel no fatigue. You feel no need. You feel only the pull of stillness ahead, a presence that isn't calling, but waiting. And then, through the veil of gold, you see it. At first, it looks like a mirage, a faint outline of a house resting where the light meets itself. Its walls are pale, made of stone that glows faintly, as though the sun itself has been sleeping inside them. Its roof is low, its windows wide and quiet. No smoke rises from its chimney. It feels ancient but untouched. You can tell, even from afar, that this house does not belong to a place. It belongs to a feeling, to that deep, endless pause between one heartbeat and the next. You keep walking. The air thickens with peace. Each step feels softer, slower, until you are no longer walking but gliding across the last stretch of earth. The door waits open, though you do not remember it opening. It was always open. Perhaps it was never closed. You step across the threshold and everything changes. The air inside is cool and still. It smells faintly of rain and old wood, the kind of scent that feels like a memory of comfort. The walls glow with a golden light that has no source. There are no lamps, no fire. The light simply is. There's a chair by a small wooden table. A book rests open upon it, though the pages are blank. The silence feels thicker here, but not empty. It feels full. Full. You move through the house slowly, as though exploring your own dream. Each step echoes faintly, but even the echoes seem sleepy, dissolving before they return. You pass a shelf of old clay lamps. None are lit. You pass a window that opens to nothing but light. There is no landscape outside, only the soft shimmer of the horizon itself. The floor creaks once, gently like an old friend sighing, and then you reach the inner room. There is a bed there, simple, unadorned, draped in white linen that shimmers faintly in the ambient glow. It looks neither new nor old, neither used nor waiting. It simply exists in perfect calm. You stand there for a moment and realize you've been here before. Not in body, but in dream, in every dream that ever felt like peace, every sleep that ever felt like home. You sit on the edge of the bed. The linen sighs softly beneath your hand. The pillow is cool. The light above seems to slow its breathing as if matching yours. You close your eyes, and when you open them again, you are lying down. You don't remember deciding to, but it doesn't matter. You feel the bed supporting you, not with weight, but with acceptance. It feels like being held by time itself. The light dims slightly, though there are no shadows. The air hums faintly, a soundless vibration that feels like the last echo of your journey, the whisper of footsteps fading into gold. Woody. You exhale. The hum steadies. The road you walked, the baker's alley, the bars, the river, the ruins, all drift gently back into your memory, each glowing softly before dissolving. You realize now that none of them were left behind. They are all here, within this quiet light. The entire city of Rome, every hill, every whisper, every heartbeat, all gathered into this one, infinite stillness. The bed seems to float. The house breathes slowly, quietly. And as you lie there, the light begins to shift, flowing downward like a tide, wrapping around you like a second skin. You can feel it on your eyelids, warm and weightless. You can feel it in your hands, in your breath. You can feel it in your thoughts, smoothing, slowing, erasing the hard edges of memory. Somewhere faintly, you hear the sound of wind, or perhaps it is only time exhaling. Your mind drifts between dreams, the market stalls and their distant chatter, the soft laughter of taverns, the shimmering river under the moon. Each returns for a moment, then fades again, like ripples disappearing in water. And then there is only quiet. The house begins to fade, or perhaps you do. It's impossible to tell where one ends and the other begins. You feel no need to move, no urge to wake. The light grows warmer, not brighter, not darker, just endlessly even. For a moment you think you see figures in the light, the baker, the shepherd, the silent priest at the ruined temple. They are not ghosts, but memories folding back into the whole, like pieces of a song returning to silence. They do not wave, they do not speak, they simply dissolve, and so do you. The walls of the house ripple, becoming light themselves. The air hums once more, deeper this time, slower, and then finally it stops. The silence that follows is not emptiness, it is peace, it is the sound of the universe at rest. And in that stillness the world remains, the house beyond the horizon, glowing softly, a place where every traveller ends and begins again, where no one is lost, where even time sleeps, and the light rests forever.